Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Jeff Mosher and this man, Adam Caplan, are your hosts. And, of course, they're here for Football at 4. We don't go away on the football, even though there's not a whole heck of a lot of Eagles happening. They did wrap up their Eagles mini rookie camp this past weekend, and of course they'll have more of those coming up before training camp, so it's a good time to kind of reset the roster, Adam. Now we got a chance to look at some of the rookies and some of the battles. We got the offense today. What's going on, man?
Mike, good to talk to you. Yeah, we should also mention Andre Sachare released. He was waived. So that was at the same time. It was a corresponding move because the Dan Arnold transaction from a league standpoint didn't happen until Monday. So that's what happened there. So, yeah, it's now time to move forward. In fact, our show that dropped on Monday, it was a two-parter. It was going inside the Eagles roster. And what we'll do here, Mike, is we'll move this forward as well on your show. Is we'll take a look at the offense today because, Mike, for the first time in many years, there are jobs open and there are going to be some pretty significant training camp battles. Yeah,
and there's a bunch that we want to kind of take a look at. Now, obviously, we go to quarterback. We know who the starting quarterback is there, but they drafted a guy. They brought Ann Book in last year, and they signed Marcus Mariota for a pretty, decent amount of money. So I would imagine Mariota would be the backup here, but you're looking at a Book-McKee little roster battle.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota is the unquestioned too. There's no doubt about that. That's the first two spots on the depth chart are certainly taken up. And Mariota, on your point, he signed a one-year deal worth $5 million. All the money's fully guaranteed at signing. So yeah, he definitely will be the two. And now, see, the Eagles might say, well, Book's got the in because he was with them last year. In fact, when they claimed him off waivers, they wound up never cutting him. So he wasn't really active during game day, but he definitely was on the roster after he was claimed. So yeah, he was certainly having the in because he knows the offense. Tanner McKee is a 6th-rounder. He's a draftee. They'll give McKee a chance to beat him out, but again, the question would be, do they want to have 2 or 3 quarterbacks? When you go heavy in position, they're not going to keep 4, but could they keep 3 again? Yes, they could because they did it last year. And Book fits what they like in a quarterback. He's athletic. He's really smart, very coachable. McKee's completely different. You and I talked about this. He's a big guy. He's got a good arm. He's some in pocket mobility, but he can't run at all. He's not going to do that. They're not going to do RPOs with him. So that's going to be the interesting battle is, does training camp tell us and the preseason tell us that one of these guys should be the 3rd-string quarterback?
All right, running back, I think this is one for the listeners. This is a good one. Swift, Penny, Gainwell, Sermon, Scott, and then there's Kennedy Brooks. But, man, Swift, he's been a guy who's been productive. Penny has been very productive. Gainwell, when given the opportunity, has produced. Boston Scott, when given the opportunity, has produced. And then there's a very intriguing player in Trey Sermon.
Mike, it's been 5 years since the Eagles have had a training camp battle for the starting job, but they're going to have one. In fact, if you go back to 2018, it was a disaster. It was Josh Adams who actually won up. I think he led them in rushing. I'm pretty certain of it. He's still trying to he might be in the USFL right now, but it was Josh Adams, Corey Clement, who couldn't stay healthy, Wendell Smallwood, and Darren Sproles. So you fast forward 5 years, and yeah, they actually have a training camp battle, and the Eagles don't know who their starter is, but at the end of the day, it's either going to be Penny or Swift. Swift has got much better versatility. He fits this offense better than Penny. Penny's just a home run hitter. And then the question is, with Swift in here, Mike, will Gainwell have any kind of role in the passing game? Because that Gainwell was their 3rd down back last year, and that's why Swift is so talented, because that's what he can do, is help you in the pass game. And then the question would be if it's Swift or Penny, who's the 3rd back? Is it Scott? Is it Gainwell? And then a guy that we had noted on our show last fall, by Thanksgiving in December, they were never going to cut Trey Sermon. They loved him. He apparently did very well in practice, and they want to take a deeper look at him in the offseason. So the question will be, will they keep 4 or 5 backs? That's something that will play itself out in training camp in the preseason. But the way we look at it, Swift and Penny should be competing for that number 1 role, and then Gainwell trying to kind of figure out what his role will be going forward.
Yeah, that one should be a really fun one with all those names: Swift, Penny, Gainwell, Sermon, Boston Scott, and Kennedy Brooks. Second-year guy from Oklahoma in that backfield. Wide receiver, we got Brown and Smith. That we know. What else is there, and what will, I guess that number 3 battle, and then, the fourth guy?
Well, I'm going to include, the third receiver job is their slot receiver job. Olamide Zaccheaus, who they signed over from Atlanta. He got a decent guarantee comparatively. He got a little bit more of a guarantee at signing than a lot of these one-year free agents got. So you have to figure he'll be on the team. He's the veteran. Quez Watkins on the final year of his rookie deal. And Greg Ward is still there. This is his 6th season, Mike. 6 with the Eagles, believe it or not. So Zaccheaus, to me, is the favorite. Now, Watkins, we know, can play on the outside. Now, Britton Covey is the probably, you would say, the projected punt returner. He also is a slot receiver. That will help him be the punt returner again, because they don't really have anyone else. Greg Ward can do it. He always fair catches it. And then the wild card here is what we're told is they really want to try to see if Devin Allen could not transition from a kickoff returner to a receiver, because he was on the roster, but he never really did anything. So their hope is that they could take a look at him as a receiver. They want to kind of develop him, Mike, as that receiver. As you know, he spent all of last season on the practice squad, but he's on the roster this year, and they really want to see what he can do. And that's a position where, quite frankly, Mike, and you mentioned Brown and Smith, they don't have much of a future with any of these backups. Let's call it like it is. Zaccheaus on a 1-year deal, Watkins on the last year of his deal. Terry Cleveland's there, Joe Nada, who's an undrafted rookie with a 3-year deal, but he's certainly not guaranteed to make it. And Hasselwood is also an undrafted free agent out of Arkansas who's got good size as well. There's definitely an opening here for one of these guys at the bottom of the roster to make the roster as the 5th receiver.
Well, and much like we talk about with corner, it seems similar. You got your 2 starters and maybe your slot guy, but if somebody gets hurt, there's not a lot there.
Ooh, good point, Mike, because honestly, Watkins, we know, can play inside or outside. He dropped off last season. I know he said it was because of his shoulder injury. He just never looked right. He just didn't do the job. Zaccheaus is a guy who can play the Z position, which is Devontae Smith's position or slot. He can run. He was technically a starting receiver for them last year because the Falcons just didn't have any depth at wide receiver. In fact, who's going to start for the Falcons? A former Eagle is going to start on the outside for them. That's Mac Hollins. That's where the Falcons are at wide receiver. But Getting back to the Eagles, Mike, there are a lot of jobs opening here, and there's certainly an opening for somebody that could push for a roster spot.
All right, Adam Caplan, football at 4. Let's go to the tight end where they made the move with Arnold. They had Stoll. Tyreek Jackson was a quarterback in college. Grant Calcaterra drafted last year. Let's take a look at what that room looks like, because last year it was Goddard, and what happens if he got hurt? Well, he did get hurt, and they kind of held the fort together.
Yeah, I called it they Jimmy rigged it last year with Stoll and Calcaterra. Calcaterra, I don't want to say he was a surprise. He just did a nice job in the route running. He's an athlete. He's explosive. Not much of a blocker. Neither is Dan Arnold, by the way. That's why he's now on his 5th NFL team in 6 years. Jack Stoll's the unquestioned 2. He's their wide tight end. When they go 12 personnel, it's mostly going to be Goddard and Stoll. But they're looking for another way because the Eagles are going to be a passing offense. And they're going to be, if it all works out, to be more 11 and 12 personnel. They're just looking for someone to give Calcaterra some competition. And you mentioned Tyree Jackson. He's not rehabbing the ACL anymore. He's got much bigger physically. He's there as well. And also, Dalton Keene was on their practice squad last year. He's a former draftee by if you might recall, he was an overdrafted tight end. He's shocked. It was shocking. He was a 3rd-round pick of the Patriots in 2020. He had mostly 5th and 6th round grades from teams. So that's a guy's going to be in the mix. But right now, Mike, they'll keep 3, and we'll see if they're going to keep 4.
All right, that's a look at the skill position. Let's go to the offensive line, where a lot of turnover on the depth area here is obviously Jason Kelsey will be your center. Cam Jurgens, they drafted last year, so you would think that room looks pretty good.
It does, yeah. Well, behind Kelsey, Jurgens is certainly the backup, and then Jurgens is competing for the right guard job. So if he loses the right guard job, he'll just be a backup at both jobs. And Cameron Tom's also in there, who's had some experience. I know he's with the Saints for a while. He was with the Eagles last year. He could push for the roster spot. But then as we go to the guard positions, here's what we do know. Tyler Steen, Juergens, and Driscoll are competing for the right guard job. We know Dickerson's their left guard. That's not in question. And Stuart Petter's a guy that he's been a decent guy for a backup, and he's been on the practice squad. He's been on the active roster. He's played a little bit. It's been a good story of development. Nice find for the scouting staff, but he's not a guy you want starting, obviously. But if he has to, he can do it because he's been there for a while and knows the system. So the real battle, this is another battle, Mike. The right guard job's completely up for grabs. My money would be on Tyler Steen. Why? Because he's a Jeff Stoutland find. Now, I talk about other teams. We know that other teams had a lower grade on Steen, and this happens a lot with the Eagles. The Eagles see guys differently than other teams do with offensive linemen. That's fine. It's not a big deal. They just have to be right. And we'll see how it breaks down. And then they also have Julian Good-Jones, who's been with the Eagles before years ago. He's back. He can play guard or right tackle. Tyrese Robinson's there. He's on their practice squad. But that would be it at the guard positions.
All right, Adam, let's look at tackle, where obviously Mailata and Lane Johnson, they're your mainstays there, but you lost Dillard, who was kind of that swing guy. So what does it look like behind those guys? If somebody got hurt, then what?
And, Mike, remember with Dillard, he finally gave in to taking guard snaps. We put this on our show last spring that there was a consideration to do it. But what we're told is the guard tape is just adequate. He's going to play left tackle for the Titans, and they're paying him to be that left tackle. He's got a 3-year deal with a 1-year structure. So Dillard is gone now. It's Mailata at left tackle. You've got Fred Johnson, who could also play guard. Roderick Johnson, who could also play right tackle. And Brett Toth is back. He's been, Mike, on and off the roster for the last 3 seasons. You know, he's had the ACL injury. He's had a bunch of injuries, but I'm giving him credit. They clearly are not going to give up on him. They like him. And you remember the hubbub when the Cardinals shockingly claimed they're off waivers, but he never did anything with the Cardinals for 1 season. And maybe, Mike, this is a long shot, but I'm going to mention it because you talked about the swing tackle because the Eagles don't have it. Driscoll could be that guy because he's done that before. But if Driscoll wins the starting right guard job, I don't know who's going to be the swing tackle. So you've got Roderick Johnson or Fred Johnson, and then Brett Toth. One of those guys could be it, but do not discount, Mike, if the Eagles coaches don't like what they see, particularly the offensive line coach and the general manager. There's certainly some veteran journeyman type guys who could come in and be that swing tackle.
Adam Caplan, schedule comes out Thursday. Donna Kelsey says the Eagles are going to play the Chiefs in week 2.
Oh, yeah.
Is that past the sniff test?
Well, no, that's typically, you have more often than not, I guess, the first game, the Sunday night game, is the rematch of the Super Bowl.
Thursday night.
Oh, I'm sorry, Thursday. Yeah, the Thursday game is usually. So it would surprise me if it's not. And how great would that be? And that would be a lot of fun. And it's interesting because remember the rules, you can only have 5 primetime games? Well, that is completely shot. Last year, if you remember, Mike, we had some teams having more than 5 primetime games.
It's up to 6 now.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I wonder, Mike, if they've amended the rule again. I'm looking for the language. And don't forget about the Friday, something you and I talked about late last season was, are we going to see Friday Night Football? And obviously Amazon's going to do it. I'm telling you this, Mike, this is just me. I'm going to do a little speculating. If the ratings are good, Mike, you're going to see Friday Night Football. It's going to be a fixture. I'm just telling you. I know it's not what the NFL would normally want to do. It's reserved for like high school football and stuff, but it's all about money and numbers, Mike. I'm just telling you.
Well, at least after, when they go to the Saturday games, they wait till college is over. You could play Friday night games, around Thanksgiving time, like after that Black Friday game could be the kickoff to a weekly Friday game.
Sure, I'm not saying every week, but I'm just saying in the future, in 24 and 25, if the numbers support it, they're going to do it. You could say what you want about Roger Goodell, but he is fan-friendly. If something works, if people are going to watch it, they're going to do it.
Peter King speculated that the Eagles will be the Black Friday game. No inside information, but that was his speculation. There has been other speculation on NFL rumor leaks of the schedule that the Eagles will play on Christmas night or Christmas. There's a triple header on Christmas this year on Monday, 3 games on Christmas Monday, and there's some speculation that the Eagles will get that Christmas Day game this year.
Oh, I see. I haven't looked at the schedule leaks. I call them sketchy leaks.
Yeah.
I used to do it. I used to put them out, and I used to use a hashtag sketchy leak. I used to love doing that, man. I would say.
Yeah. Who's this? Let's see. There's some NFL rumors. There's some Twitter handle that's putting all these little rumor schedules out there.
Now, listen. These aggregators sometimes they're wrong, so be careful.
Yeah. Oh, listen. We're just Do you like a Christmas triple header? But we're talking about like the NFL. They've bulldozed the NBA on Christmas Day. They've basically said.
And hey, Mike, I don't know if you know this. I was reading the NFL's press release that I got the other day. They're actually going to announce, some of these games on Good Morning America.
Yes.
And it's crazy. What this schedule thing, nobody pumps up the NFL schedule that everybody knows more than the NFL. But it's because of when are these games going to happen. And I would expect a minimum of 5 primetime games for the Eagles. And think about how many games they had last year. How many did they have last year? 5?
In prime time, 5 or 6. I mean, I think they were right at the limit. But as you just mentioned, tomorrow they're going to release the international games. Tomorrow they're going to release the Amazon Prime game. And tomorrow they're going to release, I think, some of the primetime games. And then on Thursday morning, on like Good Morning America, they're going to release some. And also, Adam, this year, which is new, Fox and CBS are no longer NFC and AFC. It's just a free-for-all of which games you want.
Yeah, and you used to call it cross-flexing. And, you and I were growing up. It was real simple. CBS had the AFC, Fox had the NFC, and it's no longer like that. In fact, if you remember NBC was the AFC in the 80s before NBC got out of the NFL business. Now they have Sunday Night Football. NBC had AFC. We get those Raiders, remember, the 4:00 game, and then on CBS we get the NFC.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how things have changed.
Adam Caplan, the Inside the Birds podcast is out. You can listen to it wherever you listen to your podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and, of course, right here on Football at 4 with the Eagles schedule on Thursday. I'm sure Adam will be back to kind of break all the nuances of the travel and all that cool stuff on Football at 4 on Friday with Adam. Thank you, bud.
By the way, we have a big announcement coming about new content, which we're going to announce on our Thursday morning show. Yeah, we just brokered a deal with somebody, so we're excited to make a big announcement on some content for the rest of May and June.
All right, very cool. We'll have more details on that during Football at 4 with Adam on Friday. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
All right, look for that. And, of course, Football at 4 every day right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.